You think you're better than me? You've all been using me as free labor while hiding Grandpa's inheritance from me. Well, today at the reading of his will, you'll learn I'm the one who gets everything. I practiced these words in the mirror as I knotted my tie, the only decent one I owned. I knew my siblings would show up in designer suits that cost more than my monthly rent. The irony wasn't lost on me that today they'd learn their perfect little hierarchy was built on sand. Let me back up. I'm the youngest of 4 children. My siblings, Marcus, Diana, and Rachel, all followed the expected path. Prestigious universities, corporate careers, marriages to equally successful partners, and homes in the right neighborhoods. I chose a different route, pursuing photography and taking odd jobs to fund my passion. This made me the family disappointment, the cautionary tale they'd reference when their children showed interest in anything creative. It started 3 months ago when Grandpa Joseph passed away at 92. He was the family patriarch, a self-made man who built a real estate empire from nothing. The funeral was what you'd expect, somber, formal, with my siblings performing grief like seasoned actors. I stood in the back, genuinely mourning the only person in the family who never made me feel less than. "James, there you are." Marcus approached with that smile that never reached his eyes. He was the oldest, the CEO, the one who had appointed himself the new family patriarch the moment Grandpa took his last breath. "We're having everyone over at my place after this for the reception. We could use your help setting up. Not, please join us, or we want you there. Just, we need help." I nodded, used to being the family utility player. At Marcus's mansion, because calling it a house would be an understatement, I was immediately directed to the kitchen. Diana handed me an apron without even saying hello. "The caterers need assistance plating. You've worked in restaurants before, right?" She didn't wait for an answer, already turning to greet some corporate friend of Marcus's with a champagne flute in hand. For 3 hours, I worked alongside the catering staff while my siblings networked in the living room. I heard laughter, the clinking of glasses, important-sounding conversations about investments and vacation properties. The kitchen staff treated me with more respect than my own family, thanking me repeatedly for the help. As I was finishing up, I overheard Rachel and Diana in the adjacent dining room. "Did you see James's shoes?" Rachel whispered, not quietly enough. "I swear they're the same ones from Dad's funeral 5 years ago." "Well, it's not like he can afford new ones with his career." Diana made air quotes. "At least he's useful today. Marcus says the reading of Grandpa's will is next month. Should we even tell James? It's not like Grandpa left him anything significant. Probably just his old camera collection. Worthless sentimentality." They laughed, and I felt something harden inside me. Not just hurt. I was used to that. But resolve. They didn't know what I knew. 2 years earlier, Grandpa Joseph had invited me to his home. Unlike my infrequent, obligation-filled visits with my siblings, I visited Grandpa regularly. We'd sit in his study surrounded by books and photographs, and he'd tell me stories about his early days, the risks he took, the failures before success. "James, you remind me of myself," he said that day, pouring us both a finger of his favorite scotch. "Not the me they all worship, the hungry me, the one who saw the world differently." He opened his desk drawer and pulled out a folder. "Your siblings think success only looks one way. They've forgotten where we came from." He slid the folder toward me. "This stays between us for now." Inside was a copy of his will. I tried to push it back, uncomfortable. "No, read it," he insisted. "I want someone to know my intentions before I'm gone. Someone who won't try to change my mind." The document named me as the primary heir to his estate and controlling interest in his company. My siblings would receive modest trust funds, but nothing close to what they expected. "Grandpa, they'll hate me," I said, stunned. "They already underestimate you. That's their mistake, not yours." He took the folder back. "The official copy is with my lawyer. Say nothing until it's time." I kept that secret for 2 years, even through his final days. Now, hearing my sisters mock me while I scrubbed trays in my funeral suit, I understood why he'd made this choice. The next few weeks were a masterclass in family manipulation. Marcus called me twice, not to check in, but to ask if I could photograph his daughter's dance recital. For free, of course, it's family. And help Diana move some furniture, since you have that old truck. Rachel texted, asking if I could watch her kids for a weekend. You don't have real work commitments anyway. Not one of them mentioned the upcoming reading of the will. I agreed to everything with a new sense of calm. Each demand, each assumption about my availability and worthlessness was documented in my notes app. Each time they called me little brother with that condescending tone, I pictured Grandpa's confident nod from our last conversation. The night before the will reading, they finally acknowledged I should attend. Marcus called at 11 p.m. James, the lawyer wants all immediate family present tomorrow for formalities. It's at 2 p.m. at Grandpa's house. Try to dress appropriately. I'll be there, I said simply. Great. Oh, and could you come an hour early? We need help setting up some chairs. Of course they did. I arrived at Grandpa's estate exactly at 2 p.m., not a minute earlier. I wore a new suit, nothing flashy but well-tailored, purchased with the last of my savings. The look on Marcus's face when he saw me walk in, on time, properly dressed, without having set up a single chair, was my first small victory. We waited for you earlier, he hissed as I took a seat. Did you? I must have misunderstood. The invitation was for 2. I smiled pleasantly. The lawyer, Mr. Abernathy, was a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses who had worked with Grandpa for decades. He nodded at me with what seemed like special recognition, though my siblings didn't notice. Now that everyone is present, we can begin, Mr. Abernathy said, opening his briefcase. The room was tense. My siblings sat together on one side, their spouses beside them, all in expensive attire that screamed success. I sat alone on the other side, calm in my solitude. Mr. Abernathy began with a standard legal preamble, then moved to specific bequests. Some artwork to a museum, donations to charities, small mementos to friends. My siblings shifted impatiently, waiting for the main event. Now, regarding the primary estate, including Joseph Miller's controlling interest in Miller Properties and his personal financial assets, Mr. Abernathy paused, glancing up from the document. Marcus leaned forward, a pen ready to take notes on his expected windfall. Joseph has designated his grandson James Miller as the sole heir to these assets, with full controlling interest in the company and all associated properties. The silence that followed was absolute. I could hear the antique clock ticking on the mantel, one of Grandpa's favorites. For 3 full seconds, no one moved. Then chaos erupted. That's impossible. Marcus stood up, his face flushed. There must be a mistake. I reviewed the will personally with Joseph multiple times over the past 3 years, Mr. Abernathy said calmly. He was of sound mind and quite specific in his intentions. Diana turned to me. Her perfect makeup couldn't hide her shock. What did you do? How did you manipulate him? I remained seated, hands folded in my lap. I visited him. I listened to him. I respected him. This is ridiculous, Rachel snapped. James doesn't know the first thing about running a company. He takes pictures and waits tables. Actually, Mr. Abernathy interjected, Joseph arranged for James to receive extensive business education over the past 2 years. He's completed courses in corporate governance, real estate management, and financial planning, all funded privately by your grandfather. This was news even to me. I knew Grandpa had encouraged me to take some business classes, offering to pay for them as professional development, but I hadn't realized it was part of a larger plan. Marcus lunged for the will, but Mr. Abernathy smoothly returned it to his briefcase. There are copies for everyone, of course. And I should mention that Joseph anticipated resistance. The will includes a contest clause. Anyone who legally challenges these terms is automatically disinherited from their trust fund as well. My brother's face went from red to white. He turned to me, voice shaking with rage. You can't do this. You know nothing about what Grandpa built. I finally stood up. From my jacket pocket, I removed a small notebook, Grandpa's first business ledger that he'd given me years ago. Inside, I'd kept notes from every conversation we'd had about the company, the properties, his vision for the future. Grandpa believed I understood exactly what he built and why. I kept my voice level. He didn't build an empire to create a dynasty of entitled heirs. He built it because he saw opportunity where others didn't. Because he wasn't afraid to take a different path. We've dedicated our lives to preparing for this, Diana said, tears of frustration forming. You've been playing with your camera while we've been working. Is that what you call it? I opened my phone and pulled up the notes I'd been keeping. In the past year, Marcus, you've asked me to work for free 14 times. Diana, You've made 9 comments about my failed career in family settings. Rachel, you've introduced me to your friends as your artistic brother who never grew up, twice this month alone. I put the phone away. Grandpa saw how you treated me, how you valued money and status over family. He made his choice accordingly. Marcus stepped toward me, fists clenched. You ungrateful little... I wouldn't, I said quietly. Mr. Abernathy is a witness, and I'm recording this meeting, as was my legal right after informing everyone at the beginning. They'd been too busy ignoring me to notice when I'd placed my phone on the table and announced I was recording. Marcus stopped, trembling with rage. Now, I continued, we have options. I can execute the will exactly as written. You'll receive your trust funds, which are generous, but not what you expected. Or we can talk about a family business where everyone contributes according to their skills and is compensated fairly. You're offering us jobs? Rachel looked incredulous. In our own family company? I'm offering you respect as family members and as professionals. Something you never offered me. I turned to Mr. Abernathy. I think we need time to process. Could we reconvene next week to discuss the transition? He nodded, gathering his things. Of course, Mr. Miller. As the lawyer left, my siblings stood in stunned silence. Their spouses looked uncomfortable, suddenly uncertain about their family's financial future. This meeting is over, I said. I suggest you take the week to think about what kind of relationship you want with me going forward. As family, as potential colleagues, or as nothing at all. I walked out of the house before they could respond, feeling Grandpa's presence in every step. Outside, I took a deep breath of fresh air. For the first time in my adult life, I felt seen. The aftermath was predictable in some ways, surprising in others. Marcus tried to rally the family against me, calling emergency meetings with their lawyers, searching for any loophole. There wasn't one. Grandpa had been meticulous. Diana was the first to break ranks. She called me 3 days later, her voice lacking its usual condescension. I've been thinking about what you said, she began awkwardly. About respect. And I realize I've been unfair. For years? She paused. I was jealous, actually. That surprised me. Jealous of what? Your freedom, your relationship with Grandpa. He and I used to be close when I was little, before I became what everyone expected. Her voice cracked slightly. I'd like to talk. Really talk, if you're willing. We met for coffee the next day. For the first time since childhood, we had an honest conversation. She admitted feeling trapped in her perfect life, in a loveless marriage to a man who looked good on paper. I shared my struggles trying to build a career I believed in while being dismissed by my family. Rachel followed a week later, bringing her children to my small apartment, apologizing for never visiting before. They've been asking about their uncle, who takes the beautiful pictures, she admitted. I've been keeping them from knowing you because I was embarrassed by how he treated you. Marcus held out the longest. 3 weeks passed before he requested a meeting. At his office, not mine. His last grasp at control. I agreed, but suggested Grandpa's favorite diner instead. Neutral ground. He arrived in a suit. I wore jeans and a button-down. He ordered coffee, but didn't touch it. I've consulted with every lawyer in town, he began. The will is ironclad. I know. You could destroy everything he built. His accusation hung in the air. Or I could honor it by remembering what it was built for, I countered. Grandpa didn't create wealth just to have it. He wanted to make something meaningful, to give opportunities. And you think you understand that better than I do? I worked alongside him for 20 years. You worked for the company. When was the last time you really talked to him about what mattered to him? I pushed Grandpa's old ledger across the table. He gave me this years ago. Read the first page. Reluctantly, Marcus opened it. In Grandpa's handwriting was his original business mission: to build homes and spaces where people feel they belong. Where opportunity isn't determined by where you came from. Marcus stared at it for a long time. He used to talk like this when we started, before the company got big. He closed the ledger. What are you planning to do? Run the company ethically. Focus on affordable housing projects Grandpa had shelved because the board thought they weren't profitable enough. Create a foundation in his name. I leaned forward. And I could use a CEO who knows the operational side better than I do. He looked up sharply. What? I'm offering you a job, Marcus. Not out of obligation, but because you're good at what you do. but it would be a partnership, not a hierarchy. And the company mission would matter again. You'd trust me after everything? Trust is earned. We'd start small and see how it goes. I stood up. Think about it. Let me know by the end of the week. I left him sitting there, staring at Grandpa's ledger. 6 months later, Miller Properties had a new direction. Marcus eventually accepted my offer, though our working relationship remained professional rather than warm. Diana left her husband, joined our charitable foundation, and seemed happier than I'd seen her in decades. Rachel started bringing her children to the office occasionally, proud to show them what their family built rather than just what they owned. As for me, I moved into Grandpa's house, but kept most things the same. His study remained my favorite room, where his presence felt strongest. I still took photographs on weekends, now with better equipment, but the same passion. One evening, as I sat in Grandpa's chair reviewing quarterly reports, I noticed something I'd overlooked before. On his desk, partially hidden behind books, was a small framed photo of him as a young man, standing in front of his first property purchase. He looked so much like me, it was startling. The same determined expression, the same lean build, the same outsider stance. On the back, he'd written, "Remember who you are when no one's watching. That's who you really are." I placed it prominently on the desk, a reminder of why I was here. Not because I'd won some family power struggle, but because someone had seen me clearly when everyone else had looked past me. The family dynamics would never be perfect. Old habits and hurts run deep. But we'd found a new equilibrium based on something resembling respect. I kept my boundaries firm. I helped family because I chose to, not because I was the designated helper. I said no when necessary. I valued my time and expected others to do the same. At the 1-year anniversary of Grandpa's passing, we gathered at his favorite park to dedicate a new community center built in his name. As I gave a short speech about his legacy, I noticed my siblings actually listening, not just waiting for their turn to speak or checking their phones. Joseph Miller believed that a person's worth isn't measured by their bank account or their job title, I concluded. He believed it's measured by how they treat others, especially those they have nothing to gain from. That's the standard I hope our family and our company will uphold. Afterward, as people mingled and shared stories, Marcus approached me with 2 glasses of Grandpa's favorite scotch. "He would have enjoyed this," my brother said, handing me a glass. "Yes," I agreed, "he would." We stood in awkward silence until Marcus spoke again. "I was wrong about you. We all were." I nodded, accepting this closest approximation of an apology he could manage. "To Grandpa," I said, raising my glass, "who saw people for who they really were." "To Grandpa," Marcus echoed, a new respect in his eyes. Later that night, alone in Grandpa's study, my study now, I opened his ledger and added my own entry, continuing the legacy he'd entrusted to me. Not because I had something to prove anymore, but because I finally understood what he'd known all along. True inheritance isn't about money or property. It's about values, vision, and the courage to walk your own path, even when no one believes in you but yourself. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, one person who sees your worth when no one else does. That's enough to change everything.